We begin our movie story with a group of friends who summon a human-eating monster after being tricked by the burgers they were eating and discovering that the meat was human. We then start seeing 4 friends who are in the snow, on their way to escape after they finish eating human corpses. However, there is an invisible monster that they can't hear except for its voice, and it gruesomely eats them in front of their friend who can escape from it. We go to the hospital where Nat and her boyfriend Ethan are. Ethan suggests that she spend her birthday outside the hospital. However, she is not allowed to leave the hospital because she is mentally ill. Because of that, Ethan plans to trick Tim, who guards Nat's room, to get them out of the room. Ethan offers Tim to take a cake as a birthday celebration for Nat and lets him enter the room. Then Ethan tells him that he got a new car and asks him to come see it. When Tim goes next to him, Ethan flips the juice on him, beats him, takes Nat, and they run out of the room. Tim keeps running after them, but they manage to escape from him and leave the hospital. Here, we see Nat and Ethan on their way to the campsite where her friends and her brother are preparing it so they can celebrate her birthday. At the campsite, we see Nat's friends preparing the campsite, and Teddy, Nat's brother, arrives and is introduced by Beba to the rest of the guys who are setting up the campsite. Nat and Ethan arrive, and their friends go to welcome them and greet Nat, handing over her after a long time without seeing each other. But Nat is not happy when she sees Teddy. They continue their day and spend time together. We see Beba and Nat sitting together, and Beba tries to convince her to forgive Teddy and give him another chance. Their conversation is interrupted by Ethan when he asks Beba if she finished the papers she told her to do or not. She tells him that she was busy and kept lying to him, but Francis tells him that she wasn't busy or anything. She didn't even help them at the campsite. Beba asks Teddy to be the one to finish the papers. We see Nat sitting alone when Francis comes to her and tells her that she brought her birthday present, which is a cross. She advises her not to despair and to keep going strong, saying that no matter what happens, she can get up again. Then Francis leaves her and walks away. After Teddy finishes the papers, Ethan asks Beba to take him to the man who requested them, but she tells him she will go on the condition that he comes with her. Ethan and Beba go to a house that looks abandoned from the outside and appears scary. When they enter the house, they keep calling out to the owner, but he doesn't hear them. Beba is calling out to Ethan and tells him she is scared of the scary look of the house and wants to leave quickly. But behind her appears Blackwood, the house owner, and scares her with his words that she is in his house and belittles his possessions. When she gets scared and tries to apologize to him, he tells her that he was just teasing her, nothing more. Ethan saves the situation and tells him that they are here regarding the papers he requested for their friend's birthday. We see Teddy going to talk to Nat and trying to explain what he did to her in the past, but she doesn't listen to him and leaves, walking away. Here, Cam and Mike come and bring burgers that are being distributed for free. On their way, they meet someone and suggest that he goes to get the burger he wants from the man who gave them the burgers because they are being distributed for free. However, the reaction of this person is strange when he refuses and tells them that they will regret the disgusting idea they did. But they don't care about his words, leave him, and walk away. We see Cam preparing the burgers and making sandwiches for the rest of his friends, but Mike doesn't eat any because he is vegetarian. They are all gathered together and are celebrating Nat's birthday, but suddenly Blackwood appears in front of them and throws his bag on the table. He gives them ropes and tells them to tie themselves. When Ethan tries to stand in front of him, he points a gun at him and warns them to listen to his words without any negotiation. Of course, out of fear, they listen to his words and tie themselves up. He stops them beside each other and tells them that there is a monster in the forest and that this is not a metaphor at all because there is indeed a real monster in the forest. He tells them that this monster is chasing human eaters and is eating them, and currently, the monster is chasing him. However, he is no longer the only one being chased by the monster. Now everyone is being chased by the monster because of the burgers they ate. He tells them that these burgers were made from human flesh and that he got the meat from 2 people who were wandering in the forest. He tells them that the monster has been left alive so that he can collect human eaters and present them to it. He approaches Mike and forces him to eat the burger violently, but Mike refuses to swallow it, so he kills him. He tries to attack Cam, but hits him in the face with a bottle. He takes them all in the car and tells them that he will take them on a tour. In the car, he has a lighter and they can use it to free their hands. After they get out of the car, they don't find Blackwood inside, and he is left with the keys. They all get out of the car, and Cam decides to leave them and go seek revenge on Blackwood. They keep calling out to him, but he doesn't respond to any of them. Ethan wants to go look for Cam, but Teddy wants them to go back to the car, try to move it, and escape from the forest. However, Ethan refuses and tells him that they will go look for Cam, and if he wants to leave, he can go alone to the car. Meanwhile, Cam is shouting loudly that the monster is coming out to face him because he is not afraid of it. But what happens is that the monster actually comes, but it is not visible. What appears from it is just its shadow, and it kills Cam. Teddy and Ethan keep fighting because Teddy doesn't want to go back to look for Cam and wants to go to the car. Francis enters and stops their fight, telling Teddy that they need to go look for Cam and that if he wants to come with them, he can. And if he doesn't want to, he can go alone to the car, and no one will be with him. Beba tells him how to handle the existing monster, but Ethan tells her that Blackwood is a crazy man and that he didn't see any monster all night yesterday and asks her if she saw anything. He tells her that even if there is a monster, they must leave this place and get out of it. Then we see Teddy and Nat having gone ahead of their friends into the forest. Nat stops Teddy and tells him that they should wait for their friends until they arrive so that they can all be together. They start talking together, and Teddy tries to apologize to Nat once again for what he did to her in the past and for leaving her and her mother alone. When Nat responds to him, he is not focusing on her and is getting closer to a place where he feels he sees something strange. Suddenly, Nat appears in front of him and tells him that he is not paying attention to her at all and wishes he would stop talking to her about the matter again. After they gather, they start walking together. Ethan apologizes to Nat and tells her that all of this happened because of him and that they didn't have to stay in such a place. Teddy angrily enters and tells him that everything they are in is because of his stupid actions, and they start hitting each other and fighting. Francis stops them and tells them that Beba is late and that they need to go look for her. After finding her, Ethan hears Francis calling them to see what she has gathered. It is an old abandoned house, and they decide to stay there for the night and leave the next morning from the forest. Ethan asks Teddy to stay in front of the house to monitor the place and that they will switch shifts, one after the other, but Teddy tells him that he is tired and needs to sleep and that he won't stay awake even if he stays to watch the place. Teddy continues sitting in front of the house and once again focuses on a specific spot as if he sees something strange and gets lost in his focus. But Francis interrupts him and tells him that she is going to sleep and leaves him to go. Teddy remains sitting alone, sleeping on himself, but suddenly hears a sound in the forest. He gets up to see it but doesn't find anything. He returns to stand near his friends, but suddenly they hear the sound again. And this time all of them wake up. Teddy tells them that there is definitely something in the forest. Nat feels that something is behind her, and when she turns her back, she sees the monster and screams. They all run out of the house they are in. Each one runs in a different direction. However, the monster is running after Nat. It hits Teddy and Nat continues running with him. Francis is running alone and suddenly trips and falls, her leg getting caught in a stick. When she screams, Nat hears her and goes back to help her and Teddy, but Ethan and Beba find her and pull her away from the place she fell into. When Teddy and Nat reach them, Ethan asks Teddy to help him lift Francis with him. He tells Nat and Beba that they should go while they will follow them, but cowardly Teddy leaves them and refuses to lift Francis with him, making them unable to escape from the place they are in. Ethan continues his way, helping Francis alone, but gets tired and falls as well. When he returns, he keeps looking up at the monster because they heard its voice. At that moment, Francis disappears, and nothing remains of her except her necklace. Ethan goes to Nat and Beba and tells them that Teddy has escaped and Francis only has her necklace left. They continue walking in the forest until they find a tent with a fire in front of it. When Ethan approaches to open the tent, the person who refused to take burgers from Cam and Mike appears in front of them and warns him not to open it. When Ethan asks him to help them, he doesn't listen to any words. He warns them that once he turns his back, he will not hear any of their words as if he isn't hearing their voices at all. But they don't do that, and when he turns his back, they don't leave and Ethan asks him again to help them. However, when he turns his face, he points his gun at them and tells them that they must leave immediately or he will kill them. He pushes Ethan and Beba away, but Nat stays in her place and tells him that they must help them. They all sit together, and the person tells them that they must leave this place because this is his camp, and with their presence, he is wasting his time. But amidst their conversation, suddenly the monster appears, and the disaster is that this person cannot see the monster and that only Nat, Ethan, and Beba can see it. This makes him unable to shoot it because he doesn't know exactly where it is. Ethan tries to take the gun and shoot the monster, but the person pushes him and he falls to the ground. Nat asks him why he can't see the monster, and suddenly the monster appears, grabs Ethan, and kills him. Nat continues to scream at the person to shoot the monster, but he cannot see it. When he shoots, the monster comes, but it is not affected. It approaches them and shoots the person, making him fall to the ground and tries to grab Nat, but Teddy comes and hits him with a stick, which is the last shot from the gun. Nat tries to help the person to stand up, but he asks them to flee quickly. Teddy and Nat and Beba run away from the place they are in. They continue walking calmly, hiding behind a large mold so that the monster doesn't see them. However, one of Beba's sandals falls, attracting the monster's attention to them. The monster approaches them, but Teddy distracts its attention by going behind it and tells Beba and Nat to flee quickly. Beba does not want to go with Nat on the same path behind Teddy because she believes she will die and tells her the monster. When Nat decides to go behind Teddy, Beba reminds her of what he did to her and that he is the reason she ended up in her situation. But Nat tells her that no matter what he did to her, he remains her brother, and she cannot abandon him. She tells Beba that she will go with her. We see Teddy standing confused, looking around to see the monster, but suddenly the monster appears from behind him and kills him. We see Beba and Nat looking for Teddy, but they find a tunnel-like place and decide to go down into it. Nat lights a torch, and when they go down, they find Francis still alive next to many dead bodies. Nat remembers when Blackwood drank his own blood to stay alive because the monster would consider him dead and not approach him since he was killing living people only. Because of that, Francis remained alive due to the blood she had when she got injured. Nat decides to pretend to be dead by taking blood from the corpses lying on the ground and putting it on her face and hair. Beba feels nauseous about doing that, but Nat tells her that they have no choice to survive the situation they are in. Nat and Beba leave and keep running until Beba gets tired and cannot continue. They hide behind a large rock, but suddenly the monster appears and kidnaps Beba, lifting her up and killing her. After the monster walks away, Nat runs while the monster is chasing her and she trips and screams. The monster hears the sound. When it approaches her, Nat pretends to be dead, so the monster does nothing to her. After it moves away from her, she gets up and continues walking until she sees a light on her path. When she goes to the light location, she finds it was the flashlight Teddy was holding, and next to it is Teddy's corpse, but he is still alive. Teddy asks her that he does not want to stay alive when the monster comes for him. It is difficult for Nat to comply with his request, but in the end, she grabs a stone and hits Teddy on his head, killing him. Then we see Nat after she leaves the forest and manages to reach their campsite where they had set up to celebrate her birthday. She finds Ethan's car keys and tries to start the car but fails to turn it. She finds her birthday present from Ethan, which is a picture of her and her mother. Then she gets out of the car and enters Blackwood's house, wandering around the house and seeing the knives he cuts with and the clothes covered in blood, feeling disgusted and leaving the room. As she walks, Blackwood calls out to her and greets her, telling her that she survived the monster like him. He tells her that what happened to him was because when he was in the army, the plane he was in crashed in a place with no source of life. It was just snow, and it was a deadly place for those who couldn't survive there, which made him eat the pilot out of extreme hunger. Because of what Blackwood did, he summoned this monster. He kept chasing it until it caught up to him at the place they are in. He tells her to do the same and eat people's flesh to prevent the monster from chasing her. But Nat does not like this and tells him that she will never become like him and hits him with a broken lamp in her hand. However, he hits her and knocks her to the ground, grabbing a sickle and keeps hitting her with it. Suddenly, the monster appears and grabs Blackwood and kills him. The monster keeps running after Nat in the entire house until she manages to escape from it. She tries to get into the car and manages to start it and drives away after the monster has reached the car. But Nat refuses to continue her way, turns around, and stands in front of the monster, hitting it with the car. Her car breaks down again, and the disaster is that the monster is not dead after Nat hit it with the car. It keeps hitting the car to reach Nat. When it enters the car, Nat manages to get out of it and locks the car on it, lighting it on fire. Then we see Nat returning to her hospital again because, to her, this is her most suitable place. And thus, we have reached the end of our movie.